What's happening, party people? Tobin here with you, and if you guys like the content that we do here, want to remind you guys, subscribe over on our radio shows page as well, which is youtube.com/theticketmiami. You can find Tobin and Leroy, which airs every single morning from 6 to 10 a.m. there. Put a couple of clips from the program up there every single day, so if you guys could subscribe over there. A lot of you guys are viewers of that show on this channel. We have moved that stuff over to the Ticket Miami channel on YouTube, and you can watch the full show every single morning on Twitch, twitch.tv/7nighticket, or on your Twitch app at 7nighticket. I will put all the links there in the bottom if you guys can follow there. Follow here, subscribe, like, all that good stuff YouTubers tell you to do and whatnot. But today's video, I was asked about this, so many new people coming in and out in the comments and things like that about the, the game reactions, mostly what I've been doing on this channel recently, right after the game ends, or if I get home late, then the next morning, reacted to it, and, what will we be doing in the series and things like that. But this story comes out, which is an interesting one, and it tickles my fancy for a couple of reasons, because, for one, it makes somebody I hate very unhappy, and it makes the thing I love very happy. And it also makes me look like a bit of a soothsayer as well. Like, you're just predicting these things. But there's a story out today, now that the season is over. I feel this is now appropriate to kind of dive into, because I think it's going to be a big storyline for the Miami Heat. What do they do from here? Where do they go? What are their splashes going to be? And I don't know what Pat Riley's going to say in the post-season press conference, whenever that may be. But I think the idea of the Miami Heat running it back will haunt him a little bit, because he's going to think back to the 2020 season and them running it back and that not having a lot of success. I think that he looks at every team as different and the moves they tried to make, and it's not like the Miami Heat didn't take big swings with this team and adding Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker. But we saw that ended with them physically kind of wearing down by the end of the playoffs. And so I do think that part of Pat is going to wonder, do I have to take an even bigger cut here? Are we set up to take an even bigger cut here and try and set up a real star running mate with Jimmy Butler? A guy who could really fill it up, who could really give a lot of points, which was definitely, I would say, the Heat's biggest issue in the postseason. And so the story comes out from Bleacher Report today, which is their off-season intel from Jake Fisher, I believe is the reporter. Covers the team for them, or covers the league for them. And there's a category here that is called Knicks Point Guard Search. Okay. And he writes, league sources regularly mention New York's main off-season focus is to improve the point guard position, but acquiring Utah's other all-star Donovan Mitchell remains highly unlikely. Even if Mitchell were to ultimately request a trade from the Jazz, he still has 3 full years committed on his contract before a player option in 25-26. Plus, there's a healthy skepticism around the NBA that New York's best offer for Mitchell would trump other teams' pursuits, such as a potential package from Miami that would theoretically center around Tyler Hero plus salary and multiple first-round picks. In the meanwhile, there's a growing sense among league personnel that Jalen Brunson will return to Dallas following the Mavericks' sprint to the Western Conference Finals. So that's kind of your blurb there. The interesting stuff on the New York Knicks. And Donovan Mitchell has been kind of the darling that everybody's been looking for with the New York Knicks. New York guy, Mets fan, a lot of ties there. They thought that was the obvious place where he was going to go, is that we're going to go to a place where Donovan Mitchell, that's going to be finally the Orca who decides to go to the New York Knicks. And I don't really know when the New York Knicks are going to learn that they're not a destination. I don't know how many guys it's going to have to take saying no to them before they realize this, and they should probably just go the direction of getting their own guy, whether that is RJ Barrett or whomever the drafted potential guy is. But nobody wants to go to them, man. Nobody wants to go to that clown show organization and be the savior of the Mecca and all that type of stuff. It's just, it hasn't been the case. It's not the case. And if you're talking about the idea of Donovan Mitchell wanting to go between, if he had his choice, just saying franchise to franchise, if he was a free agent, if you think that he's going to pick New York over Miami, I think you're high as a kite. The whole Donovan Mitchell thing and dynamic is funny, though, because I've been talking about this now for a couple of years. And if you guys don't believe me, you guys can search the page and see it for yourself. But I have been talking about this shadow president thing with Dwayne Wade for a long, long time. And I just think that you have to read the tea leaves. You have to look into these things and see what appears on its surface and then what is, you know, kind of in the in-between. And we all thought it was very weird that Dwayne Wade took an ownership stake in the Utah Jazz. And it was even weirder that the Miami Heat publicly, like, disagree with it, specifically Mickey Harrison. And for those who don't know, you know, Mickey doesn't say a whole lot. Like, he doesn't do a lot of interviews. He doesn't tweet anything other than Carnival and Show Up Heat Nation or Great Road Win. Like, that's like what Mickey Harrison tweets. And when Dwayne Wade took the ownership stake in the Miami Heat, let me see if I can get the exact tweet here. But it was like, kind of like showing that he was hurt, you know? And it was almost to the fact like it was almost fishy to me, you know? Like, why is Mickey being so public with his opinion about this now? He's always been very, like, close to the vest. He said back in April of 2021 when this went down, so it's been down for about a year now. I remember reacting to this at the time. It feels like 2 years ago. I don't even know what, like, it's hard to stay on track of the time these days and all that stuff. But anyway, he says, I want to congratulate Dwayne on his recent announcement. We had discussed having him join our ownership group after his retirement, but he was not prepared to commit at the time. Of course, I'm disappointed that he didn't reconsider. Having said that, I wish him luck. Have the most success with the Jazz. To me, Dwayne will always be a Heat lifer. And I found this just interesting because for a couple of reasons. One, yeah, why the hell is Dwayne Wade part of the Jazz? I'm glad that, you know, Dwayne is in ownership and more players should be in ownership and he has that kind of an influence. But it was very weird. It was kind of out of nowhere. The only connection really being is that he had a very good relationship with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell idolizes Dwayne Wade, really, really looks up to him. And there's a great relationship there. So I think that there was Utah looking at this and saying, hey, we have a thing here. We've had a thing brewing here with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert for a while. We want to keep Donovan Mitchell happy. Let's bring in a guy who really can bridge the gap. But I always found that interesting because Dwayne Wade is a guy who, even with having an ownership stake, is never going to, I think, impede players from doing what they want to do. You know, he was very open about this with LeBron leaving. Like, he wasn't going to try and convince LeBron to do anything else. You know, he was going to do what he wanted to do, and he was going to have the freedom to do that, and that was it. So I thought, okay, so they're bringing him in to basically be a Donovan Mitchell go-between or a conduit between real ownership or higher-up ownership and where things stand with the front office and him. So I just think it was interesting because Dwayne has been a guy who's been the source of everything that's elite for the Miami Heat. Whether it's, you know, even with Jimmy Butler, he didn't tell Jimmy Butler, like, hey, straight up go to Miami. But what he said was, you know, all the things that you're looking for in an organization, Jimmy, that's what the Miami Heat are all about. They are about the things that you're about. And you saw that even during these playoffs. There was a couple of games. Dwayne Wade showed up courtside to a Miami Heat game. He was treated like the king that he should be, the absolute icon that he should be. Him and his wife treated like royalty, basically, at the Miami Heat game. They won that game. After the epic Jimmy Butler performance, what's the first thing that he mentions after the game? Dwayne Wade reached out to me and, you know, told me that I can get through this knee injury, nobody's going to care, and all that type of stuff. What did you see? 2 amazing games to end the series from Jimmy Butler, a shot shy of the NBA Finals, excuse me. So the reason I mention all this is because I feel like if Donovan Mitchell truly is unhappy with the Utah Jazz and doesn't want to stick around, I do think there's going to be those heart-to-hearts on where he wants to go, where he wants to be, where his career will be best off. And I do think that Dwayne, you think in a scenario like that, like he's going to say, oh yeah, you would be about the Knicks. Like, no, I think that he's going to be like, hey, don't, you know, yes, is he going to tell him definitely stay in Utah? I don't think so. I think he's going to say, I'm going to tell you where they're about what you want to be about. And I think he's going to tell Miami. Also, Donovan Mitchell and Bam Adebayo, very close, like very close friends. And yeah, on top of Bam Adebayo being an awesome player, one of the things that is a great, powerful tool is player relationships. And Bam Adebayo happens to be close friends with a lot of the young superstars or stars in the league. So seeing something like this, where Donovan Mitchell would prefer going to Miami, or that their trade package would be better for Miami, or people were skeptical that it would be going to the Knicks. Like, yeah, well, what do the Knicks have to offer? Like 1999 Spike Lee and some Sprewell jerseys? Like, I really am just genuinely curious. Like, are you saying it's the biggest market in the world? Dude, Ja Morant stole the league this year, and he plays for Memphis. You literally could be a star wherever. Kevin Durant became a star in Oklahoma City. Markets don't matter. They really don't. Now, if that is something that he cares about, they'll definitely talk about him probably more on the New York Knicks than they will on the Miami Heat, because Lord knows they like to ignore the holy hell out of the Miami Heat. But I would say he'll get talked about, till March, and then the talking will stop. So here's the only deterrent that I think is an issue, or could be an issue, with the Miami Heat dealing with the Utah Jazz in the situation. One, I do think it's going to take a lot. I think Donovan Mitchell's under control, like the article said, for a few years. I always imagined that this thing was going to happen with him having like a year left on his deal. But then again, like in today's NBA, extensions are happening at all times. Like, I don't even know what the rules are anymore as far as like when guys can get what. And it just seems like there's more money on more money on more money on more money getting piled up, which good for them. But I'm just saying, from when it relates to when guys are actually up and actually hitting the market, like nobody even really wants to hit the market anymore. They want to get their max money, max deals, and then they want to demand a trade somewhere. Like that, people don't really do what Dwayne Wade and LeBron James did back in the day, which was set them all up for free agency and then go. It's not really how it's done anymore. It's usually, let me get the most money on the extension, make a stink, get out. Like we just saw with James Harden. So Donovan would be earlier in his career of doing this for sure. But I think the thing that's interesting about this is that, yeah, Danny Ainge and Pat Riley hate each other like poison. So I think that could make things difficult. Now, if Dwayne Wade was over there, could it make things a little bit easier? Wink. If you had a guy who was a shadow president and he could be in the background like a puppeteer, puppeting Danny Ainge, who gave him a terrible retirement gift of a gnarly piece of wood from that hellhole, the TD Garden, could Dwayne Wade have the Jazz's owner's ear a little bit better than Danny Ainge would, as he's been around a little bit longer? Danny Ainge only been there for a few months. Dwayne Wade's been there nearly a year, over a year. So, and say like, listen, Donovan Mitchell's definitely going to stay there. The Heat know this. You could fleece him for 4 first-round picks, or whatever the max is that you could give him. Tyler Hero, and then whatever the salary is. And in this case, you are getting the reigning 6th man of the year. And by the way, I just want to say for Tyler Hero, like, it's going to suck for him because any Heat rumor that comes up, he's going to be in. And, he talked a little bit about this with Izzy Gutierrez this year. So said, like, how that was a mental bog and he finally just had to, like, wipe it away and not think about it. Yeah, it's unfortunate. He's going to be in every trade discussion there is this year. I don't think they're going to trade Bam. Jimmy speaks pretty glowingly about him. He played every minute in a Game 7, Game 25 and 11. I think he's hard to replace. I think they know what he brings to the table. And again, I mentioned the idea that he has a great relationship with a lot of stars around the league that are around his age. So I don't think Bam's going anywhere. I think that he is looked upon as Heat culture through and through. The other thing with Tyler Hero that's going to be an interesting thing is Tyler wants to start. Tyler wants to be the face of a franchise. Tyler wants to be looked upon as the go-to guy. And I think that this is very clearly going in a direction where this is Jimmy Butler's team. Tyler Hero arguably is the most popular player on the Heat. Like, gets the biggest pops, sells the most jerseys. But Jimmy Butler, this is his team. Where maybe there was like an idea that Boy Wonder was taking over. Boy Wonder's going to be here for years to set. Maybe. I mean, he's 22 years old. There were certainly runs this year during the regular season where Bam and Tyler were taking over, and it looked like the future and the present were kind of meeting at a crescendo. They were here at the same place. So I'm not ruling out the idea that Tyler Hero is a guy on the Miami Heat for the rest of his life. I'm just saying that any trade rumor that involves the Miami Heat is going to involve Tyler Hero. It's just how it's going to go. He is their best asset that I think they're listening or would be listening to part with. I don't think they're going to part with Bam Adebayo unless it was like for, you know, Nikola Jokic or Giannis or something like that. You know, but these trades wouldn't happen. So I don't think that they're going to trade Bam Adebayo. I don't think he's going anywhere. So is Tyler Hero multiple first-round picks and the salary enough for the Jazz to part ways with Donovan Mitchell? I don't know. I feel like it's a lot of years left. I still feel like it's something that's more likely to happen with, you know, stuff going away. But some organizations now, they just bend on this whole disgruntled star thing. If a guy gets disgruntled, doesn't want to be there anymore, they're leaving now. It's just kind of the way the NBA has gone lately. There hasn't been a whole hell of a lot of, we'll stick this out, the guy makes a stink, it's going to be better. I feel like they've kind of probably already been that route so far in Utah, knowing that Donovan Mitchell hasn't been the happiest in Salt Lake City, knowing that he doesn't love Rudy Gobert that much. I think Rudy Gobert seems a little bit more inclined to stay in some place like Salt Lake City and be their Jazz lifer, if you will. And so maybe that comes with him making a splash like this. But I do think that if Donovan Mitchell were to go, yeah, I think the Dwayne Wade connection is a huge, huge deal. And the Bam Adebayo connection is a huge, huge deal in Miami being one of the places that Spider would absolutely want to land in. When a guy has that many years, they may just say bleep it and go somewhere else. But I think the idea that if you think it's silly to connect the dots between Dwayne Wade, his time down here this year with Miami, his still love for the city of Miami, his talking to Jimmy Butler, you know, the idea that everybody kind of thinks it's weird he's on the Jazz anyway. If he were to leave the Jazz, if Donovan Mitchell were to leave the Jazz, what is Dwayne doing there anymore? Especially with a guy like Danny Ainge, who I don't know what the relationship is like. I just know Danny Ainge gave him a whack-ass retirement gift. And there's always that Heat Celtics thing. I'm sure like Danny Ainge was sending him a joking text, and Dwayne Wade probably found it not funny over the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think this is getting interesting. This is interesting. It's interesting if this is starting up already, that Donovan Mitchell, who has so many years left, is already kind of out there with trade rumors. I find it hilarious that the New York Knicks have basically been ruled out of the offseason. That is not surprising, but always, always funny to me. And as far as the Heat's concerned, like, yeah, dude, Spider Mitchell, Shadow President Dwayne Wade, it's a thing, man. And don't be surprised by it. I told you guys about this when Dwayne Wade first took that gig. You guys can go back and watch what I said about this. That I find it very, very interesting that he took that position. I find it very interesting that Mickey was so public about his disappointment when he doesn't say anything of substance or opinion on Twitter. It seemed almost fishy, like it was a put on. And now, Spider Whale may be coming to fruition.